Well, thank you so much for choosing us this morning. Let's go to this story now. A newly launched campaign, not USA, but USA, has emerged from the Afrikaans NGO Bittereinders. So is it Betereinders? Is it Bittereinders? Is Betereinders. Sparking considerate discussion. This initiative distinguishes itself by explicitly rejecting the notion of seeking asylum abroad, particularly in the United States, and firmly stating that its members do not consider themselves victims of racial discrimination. We are now joined this morning by the co-founder, Johan Erasmus, to discuss the motivations behind this particular campaign. A very good morning to you. Thank you so much for making time for us. Bittereinders, tell us more about it and what has brought about this idea.
Sure. So Bittereinders as an NGO was formed a number of years ago, and we are aimed at, well, we focus on reconciliation, we focus on social development work, and to a certain extent we're a door for Afrikaners to come into the new South Africa. At least that's how we see ourselves. And then this campaign was, I think, sparked out of what we've seen in the last couple of weeks, and what we've been saying, first of all, to Trump is no thank you. I think Trump ran a campaign in the USA that stated America first, and we are giving a similar campaign back to him, which says no, South Africa first.
South Africa first.
And then to white people we say, I think we need to stop playing the victim card. And to black people we're saying, you guys are not going to get rid of us that easily. We are committed to this country and we want to be here.
Yeah. When you first heard of the Afriforum and Solidarity campaign, and the message, I guess, that they were sharing with the United States and then later on with the administration of Donald Trump, what went through your mind?
Well, I mean, this has been happening for a long time. Yeah. So we've been in conversation with many members of Afriforum. We've had public discussions like that, online discussions where we've been critiquing their narrative, and we don't think that they are necessarily lying, that side, but they are not living in complexity. They are not putting their facts in tension with a whole bunch of other facts. So, for example, if you talk about all the race laws and BEE legislation, you need to put that in tension with the fact that 36% of black people in South Africa is unemployed versus 7% of white people. The unemployment among white people in South Africa is less than that of Spain. White people earn 4 times more than black people. So I'm not trying to diminish and say that white people feeling unfairly treated by BEE is nothing. I'm just saying that you need to put it in tension with this. And in terms of the farm murders, we are connected as an organization with many farmers, many white commercial farmers, and they just simply do not share the same narrative. That doesn't mean that we deny the reality of farm murders, but we also say in the same voice that if you're a black person in South Africa, you are more likely to be the victim of crime than a white person.
Yeah, and because the argument that Solidarity and Afriforum has put across, which clearly has been accepted by the Trump administration, is that yes, crime happens in South Africa, but when it comes to murders, and murders of farmers specifically, it is the white Afrikaans farmers that are being targeted. And you are saying, from the information that you've gotten from some farmers, that that's not their narrative, that's not their case.
Look, that there's a problem with rural safety is a fact. We can agree on that. We don't have to deny that completely. But to say that this is a politically motivated thing is just completely absurd. I think we need to acknowledge that there are farmers across the country who states that they do not necessarily live in fear. And something that is underreported is the fact that many farm workers are sometimes the victims of murder when it comes to stock theft, etc. So it's just not a one-dimensional thing. We are not here to say that there's no issue. We're just trying to say that this is an issue of crime that has been utilized for political gain, and we are critiquing that jump, that leap.
Yeah. What do you think this does then in terms of divisions in the country? The president has spoken about this as well when he was asked about the narrative that is being pushed by Afriforum and whether or not they should be charged with any criminal intent with regards to high treason. But what's your take on it around divisions that it is causing?
Well, first of all, let me just take one step back, if that's okay.
Yeah.
I would say that in the same way, Donald Trump would be very much against the Black Lives Matter campaign, and they would say that the killing of unarmed black civilians at the hands of police officers are wildly exaggerated. Most of the people in Afriforum would agree with that. But the narrative is exactly the same in South Africa. We are saying that the narrative of farm murders has been completely politically exaggerated. So I find it very ironic that on the one hand you deny the reality of a minority in the United States, but then you concur with the narrative of minority in South Africa.
Yep.
In terms of what's going on in terms of race relations, it's been devastating. And I think we've been set back a few years in terms of race relations. If you just look at social media, it's not a pretty picture. Hopefully social media is exaggerated in this, but we've made such important gains. I'm thinking of people like Johan Erasmus and Siya Kolisi and what the Springboks have meant for so many people. And to now, where we've united behind this campaign that said stronger together, and now we are running to the United States, or there's asylum offers. That is completely the opposite of what we've been talking about the last few years.
Yeah. And from the people that you have spoken to, the ones perhaps maybe that agree with Solidarity and agree with Afriforum, what are their fears? What are they telling you?
So first of all, I would say that their fears, I really think they are victims. I really think they are convinced by their narrative. So it's a cumulative case, right? So they would say you've got all this BEE legislation and it is just reverse apartheid. And we've said that if you compare BEE legislation with apartheid, it is like standing in the row at the hospital and asking the guy in front of you, what do you have? And he says, no, I've got brain cancer. And you say, oh, yeah, I know how you feel. I've got a cold on this side. It's just a very unfair comparison. So it's BEE legislation. You've got the Expropriation Act. You sit with Zimbabwe and the memory of Zimbabwe, almost the myth of Zimbabwe that is always sort of being whispered in the ears of white people. This is coming, we're going to get aggressive land grabs. But I think we should say that even if you push the Solidarity guys, they will say that their fear is not about something that has happened, it is about something that will happen. So it remains very hypothetical. And I should add that we have been waiting for this so-called uhuru, this so-called white genocide for the last 30 years. For the last 30 years, we've been pushing this narrative and nothing has happened yet.
Yeah, and that narrative still continues. Ernst Ruetz, who used to be with the Afriforum, actually had an interview with Tucker Carlson, in the United States. And one of the problems or issues that he raised was this so-called Azania critical theory, which is being taught in our universities, and apparently at the core of it is the extermination of white people. I don't know if you've heard of the Azania critical theory. Yeah, but he speaks about the Azania critical theory today is being taught at our universities, and the push is at its core the extermination of white people because they lack Ubuntu and they are subhuman beings. From your perspective, what do you read into this when you have individuals who come out to almost say that they are speaking on behalf of Afrikaners?
Well, first of all, in terms of the narrative of, let's say, critical race theory, we are not saying that nothing is going on in South Africa. We are not saying that we agree with the ANC necessarily, or that we agree with the rhetoric that various politicians on the left are utilizing. We are just saying that this narrative of Afrikaner victimhood has just completely gotten out of hand. All right, so that doesn't mean we are these pink woke people, just bowing to everything on the left. We're just saying that this narrative has completely gotten out of hand. In terms of the Azania movement, I know that there's that Nota Baloy guy who recently said something, but it really seems like that is a minority view. So I'm not necessarily worried about that. And I think the Afrikaner has always had this fear narrative. Everything has been a fight, whether we fought the English in the Anglo-Boer War, whether we fought against all the sanctions during apartheid, whether we are fighting for our identity. Everything has been a fight narrative, and it hasn't been a unity narrative. And I think if that is the lens through which you see the world, then every law change, everything that you interpret around you is interpreted through that lens.
Because Afriforum's argument is also that, for instance, if you look at the Bella Act, Expropriation Act as well, is that they fear, I guess maybe it's the extinction of Afrikaans as a culture in South Africa. And one of the reasons that they said that they won't be taking up the offer to become refugees in the United States is because then they will have to assimilate. And they can't be doing that because they want to keep their culture alive. They want to keep Afrikaans alive as well. Yeah. Is there any risk, do you believe, that you're currently looking at of an extinction of Afrikaans as a culture and as a cultural group?
Look, for Afrikaners, we don't just look at language and let's say the Bella Act for a moment. Yeah. For us, Afrikaans schools, and maybe from the coloured community you can associate a little bit with this, but for us, the Afrikaans schools are more than just schools. It's more than just language. These are institutions where it's sort of a rite of passage. So when those things are threatened, immediately we go back into this defensive mode. But we need to also state in the same breath that there's never been more Afrikaans music festivals ever. There's never been more Afrikaans movies. Afrikaners are much richer than they were in '94. I found it so fascinating. You referenced the Tucker Carlson interview between him and Roots, and Roots is just talking about all the horrible things that's going on. And at one point, he slips. He says, the Afrikaner are much richer than they were in 1994. And Tucker Carlson's like, whoa, how did that happen? So you're not using that narrative. So economically, it's going better with the Afrikaner. Culturally, it's going better with the Afrikaner. And yes, we need to sort out some of these issues with Bela. As an organization, as Bittereinders, we are not necessarily against getting rid of Afrikaans. Let's assume the worst, that is what Bella is saying.
But that's not what Bella is saying.
Sure. But let's assume the worst. Then we're not necessarily for that. But what we are saying is that our problems are not to be sorted out in the White House, and it's also not to be sorted out in a White House. It happens when the whites leave their White Houses and they go to the black houses, and we have a dialogue and we try to construct something, and that's what Betereinders is all about. Yeah.
In your interview with News 24, you said that what we are essentially asking is for other Afrikaners to join us. To join you in doing what?
Well, firstly, to just do a bit of a life audit. Just look around you. Who's the victim here? I come from a place like Pretoria. And if you just go into a restaurant and you look at who's serving who, then you realize that, oh my goodness, these white people are not these terrible victims. If you go to Stilbaai and Hartenbos over December and you look around you, then this white victimhood, white genocide narrative is really not what is going on. So first of all, I would say we need to do a bit of a life audit. Mm-hmm. The second thing I would say is before '94, we used to sing the stem. I'm not sure what the English equivalent is, but we used to say, ons sal lewe, ons sal sterwe, ons vir jou South Africa. We will live, we will die, as for you, South Africa. And now that things are not completely going our way, all of a sudden people are running to Australia, people are running to Canada, running to America, and we're saying, no, we are committed to this country. Yeah. So it can't be that easy. But
to Solidarity and Afriforum's credit, they are still saying that they are committed to South Africa, that they want to remain in the country.
Sure, and to their credit, but they say that, and at the same time they launch a campaign that says our blood is orange, and you know that alludes to sort of a separate colony that they want to erect in the Northern Cape. So yes, they want to be in South Africa, but what we are saying is we want to be in South Africa. We do not want to be in a little orange country in a separatist place. We want to be part of South Africa. So you can still be in South Africa and be an immigrant to a whites-only town. So we are saying, no, when we say we stay in South Africa, we really mean it.